Okay, I want to start off by giving all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashim, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashim, Rakat, Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who teacheth the Bible in 100% truth. And Shalom to the hopeful elect of the 12 tribes of Israel, especially the 144,000, who consist of the Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans in the land of the Americas, as well as the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners living amongst the other nations. Shalom to you. Okay, back on the trail of prophecy. In the last couple of days, I've had to I've messing about with the desktop, with the computer, so I had to update a couple of bits and pieces, and then look into the microphone, which has been an issue. So it's kind of pushed me back a couple of days, but I'm back. And obviously, I believe the mic is sounding okay at the minute, although I can't actually hear that myself at the minute, so I'm not really too sure until I finish. But Lord willing, it sounds a lot better for you. But yeah, so trying to get my mind back into it. I've been looking at different news articles, so on and so forth, and I came across this one today. This is Switzerland abandons neutrality. This is actually 2 weeks old, but like I say, I've just come across it today. You might have come across this article. We know we're waiting for major prophecies to come to pass according to the Bible. There's only a few major prophecies left. We've got civil unrest. You could say civil war in America. Lack of love between people. You've got lack of money, for example, financial situation, all these different things that are happening at the minute, and this is all leading us up to the implementation of the MOTB, which is spoken of in Revelation chapter 13. You've got, people on social media speaking the truth, and then the powers that be looking to clamp down on so-called truth, or what they call truth or not truth, to be spoken online. So we're in this time now. We're waiting for the election in America. We're waiting for the economic crisis to take hold, and all this leads us towards the MOTB. And soon after that, we've got a thing called World War III, which is already on the go now at the minute, as we've been explaining to you, for over a year now, that the situation going on in the Middle East is ultimately going to lead to the Third World War. And in the peak of Third World War, we'll see the destruction of America, Babylon the Great, with nuclear ICBMs shot upon America. And that will destroy it, the scriptures say, within an hour. And then, at that same moment, obviously, we will have the deliverance of the elect, a certain portion of the children of Israel, and they will be delivered out of harm's way while the destruction ensues around the earth. You have Armageddon, the Battle of Armageddon taking place. At that time, it would have already been happening in the Middle East, and that's what the events leading us, the events that are happening in the Middle East at the minute, they're leading us to that particular point. The situation of Armageddon, which is a mountain of troops, World War III, and then ultimately the destruction of America, falling out of nations. You can see particular allies at the minute. We know that America work closely with the small hats, who instigated the troubles that are happening in the Middle East, and obviously from them we see knock-on effects that are taking place because of that. And like I say, this is all leading us to the Third World War. So with that in mind, we keep an eye out on the news, and we see things that are, showing us that we're heading in that direction. The true men of the Most High actually know. We know what's going to happen. We know where it's all going. So it's not really a matter of if or when, or well, it is a matter of when, but it's not really a matter of if. We know this situation will take place. It's just a matter of when. So that's why we're able to look at the news and pick out certain things which we know are taking us in that direction. To most of the general population around the world, there are events that are taking place. People talk about how close we are to World War III, or this or that, digitization of the geopolitical system, if you like. But people aren't able to give you the end result the same way we can, the prophets of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, because we have the answers, we have the end result. And so even though you look around the world and it seems very unsettled, nobody's quite sure where the future is, where's this world going, the men of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai definitely know where everything is going, and we're warning you, we're sending out the warning of these particular events. And like I say, the events I've spoken of are coming up very soon. Lord willing, 2024, we've got a couple months left. 2025, we'll see, Lord willing, we see these events. So, with that in mind, this article, Switzerland abandons neutrality. Switzerland is set to join the European Sky Shield Initiative. This is a project aimed at creating a shared missile defense system for Europe, as announced by the Swiss government on Friday. Obviously, this is going back 2 weeks ago, so this is the 19th of October 2024. It says here the initiative began after Russia invaded Ukraine in February 22, with Germany proposing the joint defense project. It says, Urs Loher, Switzerland's head of arrangements, signed the agreement making Switzerland the 15th member of the initiative. It says with its participation in the ESSI, the European Sky Shield Initiative, Switzerland is increasing international opportunities for cooperation. It says ESSI enables better coordination of procurement projects, training and logistical aspects in the area of ground-based air defense, the government said in a statement. It says that the countries involved aim to develop a defensive system against medium-range missiles, although other plans are also under consideration, according to the Swiss government. So, there's 2 points of interest there. Obviously, you've got Switzerland abandoning neutrality, and you've got this issue here with the European Sky Shield Initiative. Now, you may have heard of this before, however, it's not something that I've heard of myself. So, looking at it here, had a quick look up. You've got the European Sky Shield Initiative. The European Sky Shield Initiative is a project to build a ground-based integrated European air defense system, which includes anti-ballistic missile capability. As of July 2024, so this summer just gone, only a few months back, it says 22 European states participate in the initiative. Background: the initiative was originally proposed by Chancellor of Germany, Olaf Scholz, in August 22. The proposal was made during the 2022-23 Russia strikes against Ukrainian infrastructure, and amid increased concerns about the limited European capability to defend against such threats as the Russian NK-720 Iskander ballistic missile system deployed in Kaliningrad. So it goes on here. It's in October 2022. The 15 European states, Belgium, Bulgaria, Czech Republic, Estonia, Finland, Germany, Hungary, Latvia, Lithuania, Netherlands, Norway, Slovakia, Slovenia, Romania, and the UK signed a declaration to join Germany-led initiative. It would involve joint procurement of air defense systems. This is as of 2024. All founding states are members of NATO. It says with Finland's ascension into the alliance occurring in 2023, the initiative also aims to strengthen the NATO integrated air defense system. In February 24, the German government announced that Greece and Turkey would join the initiative. In February 23, it goes on to talk about Denmark and Sweden joined the project. In July 23, neutral states Austria and Switzerland signed the declaration to join the initiative. The latter passed the application with supplement in October 2024, raising questions about the future and practicalities of their policy of neutrality. Just to read this last statement here, France has been challenging the initiative, citing too much reliance in current plans on non-European equipment and technology. It was suggested that the French government is dissatisfied that the French-Italian SAMPT system is excluded from the ESSI. In June 23, France made a counter-proposal and has been calling for other countries to examine the alternatives. As of July 23, several major European states, namely France, Poland, Italy, and Spain, did not make a decision to join the ESSI. It says in April 24, Poland planned to join a project to develop a European-wide air defense system to deter potential drone and missile attacks, Prime Minister Donald Tusk said. So they've put together this ESSI, and this is a European Sky Shield initiative. You know, a bit like in the Middle East, you've got the small hats, they've got the Iron Dome, for example. They've got all these different defense systems against missiles, incoming missiles, so on and so forth. And, Europe, since obviously what's happened in Russia, people in Europe have been calling for it. And you can see the map here. So it's a very new situation. You've got the founding members, which are the dark green, and the joined in 23-24, you've got the light green. So obviously you notice France and Spain, Portugal, they're not part of it yet. And France are challenging, it says at the bottom here, the initiative, citing too much reliance in current plans on non-European equipment. It says it was suggested that the French government is dissatisfied that the French-Italian SAMPT system is excluded. So, when you look down here at the capability, the ESSI will use multi-layered defense with the following systems planned. And they've got these, short range, medium range, long range, very long range. Now I looked into here, the Arrow 3, and the Arrow 3 has an operational range here of 2,400 kilometers. So that would be only half the distance to, from Europe to America. Now, you'll say, well, Europe to America, this is supposed to defend Europe, and obviously the idea is to defend itself against Russia. Why would Europe, want to shoot missiles on America? Well, that's what the scriptures tell us. But before I move on, you've got the SAMPT. Is that what I've just hit? Hang on. Yeah, SAMPT, which is what France are disappointed that the ESSI have not taken on board this particular weapon. I just wanted to see if it's got a operational range. 120. So it's not really shooting too far. Now, yeah, like I said, as I say, the capabilities at the minute as it stands, the ESSI, they can reach about 2,500 kilometers. You go to the book of Revelation, chapter 17, victory for the Lamb. It says, these shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them. So obviously the Lamb is speaking of Yahushua. In the time of World War III, at that moment when the nuclear ICBMs start to shoot upon America, a huge angelic vehicle in the sky will appear, which is what we call a chariot, and that will be the vehicle of Yahushua, and so that will beam up the children of Israel. But at that same time, Yahushua will come with other smaller angelic vehicles, an army, and this army will pretty much shoot laser fires upon Earth, on America to destroy America, alongside the nuclear ICBMs, and also in other places. For example, the land of Israel will be destroyed and eventually rebuilt back up, but however America will not be. And so you've got the Battle of Armageddon. While this is all taking place, the destruction of America, the Battle of Armageddon will already have started in the Middle East, and that will be ongoing. And then it says here, these shall make war. So all these nations, even though they'll be fighting each other during the World War III, they will start to attack these vehicles that appear in the sky, these angelic vehicles. As it says, that these shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them. It says, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. It says, and he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the horse sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. This is going back into the description of the whore, spoken of earlier in the chapter. If you coincide this chapter with Revelation chapter 13, you understand what the beast is, then you understand that America is the whore that rides the beast system. The beast system consists of EU and NATO, and therein lies the geopolitical power structure which is currently ruling the earth today. But I'm not going to go into too much detail. Carrying on here, it says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. And the 10 horns upon the beast spoken of in Revelation chapter 13 represents the EU nations, part of that beast. And it says, and it shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. It says, for the Most High have put it in their hearts to fulfill his will. It says, and to agree and to give their kingdom unto the beast until the words of the Most High shall be fulfilled. It says, and the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. And that great city is America at the minute. But at some point, as it says here, the beast which the whore is riding, consisting of EU and NATO, it says here the 10 horns, so speaking of the EU part particularly, it says will make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. So this represents European nations shooting nuclear ICBMs upon America and ultimately destroying America. The same moment when the angelic vehicle appears in the sky and delivers the children of Israel, or the elect, a certain portion of the children of Israel, out the way, while the rest, everybody left in America at that point, will perish in the burning fire, which is named the Lake of Fire. So that's the fact why I was looking at how far these particular this defense system, ESSI, the capability, what they class as very long range. Arrow 3 is only going to reach 2,500 kilometers. And when you look up how far from Europe to USA, you've got just over 5,000 kilometers. Sorry, it actually says miles, 5,000 plus miles, not kilometers. So 5,000 miles is about 8,000 kilometers roughly. So we know that currently the ESSI do not have capability to shoot missiles upon America. But then it's got here, France have been challenging the initiative, citing too much reliance on current plans on non-European equipment and technology. And it says that it's satisfied with them not using the SAMPT. Now, when you go back to this map here, you've got France, Spain, and Portugal, which are not part of this. But when you look up list of intercontinental ballistic missiles, we have Russia. Now we all know Russia. We hear people speaking of Russia having ICBMs shooting America. But then we have to look at other nations. So you've got lists of active and inactive ICBMs. So you've got Russia, India, United States, China, France, small hats, North Korea, and that's pretty much it. So you look at it, and you look at this list. There's not many nations really which have nuclear ICBMs. Russia, India, United States, China, France, small hats, North Korea. Iran are supposedly in the in the process of building one, but this is what they classify as it says list of intercontinental ballistic missiles. The article is about a list of intercontinental ballistic missiles developed by various countries. For a comparative list of intercontinental ballistic missiles, see comparison of ICBMs. So that's why it shows you, then goes on to show you what's active, what's inactive. So what's interesting is you go back to this ESSI, and the only nation we really saw there on the list were France, who have nuclear ICBMs, yet they're not part of the ESSI, but they are in debate with the ESSI as to how they go about their business and what type of technology they use. So I thought that was interesting because obviously, at the minute all these nations are part of the EU. EU is under the rulership of the Beast system. The Beast system is controlled by America. They're going to be pushing the MOTB. They push all these different agendas. But at some point there has to be a falling out between these nations. So for European countries or France to want to shoot nuclear ICBMs upon America, as the scriptures tell you, then there has to be a falling out. So we're seeing that happening with the Middle East. You see France come out, and a lot of people have come out and said, what's going on in Russia is not good. Now we see the situation in the Middle East. It's about picking sides. So you pick a side, and out of it you've now got this creation of the ESSI initiative. Now this could be the pact that, if France, for example, were to join that, eventually this could be the pact that they could work under this, how can I put it, under this governance. The minute the Beast system works under, if you're in the Beast system, like these European nations, you work under the governance of the Beast system. So you work according to the rules and regulations of the EU, which is ultimately part of the Beast system, and it ultimately works with NATO, and ultimately is run by America, powered by, manipulated, shall we say, by America. So that has to break up, and these countries in this particular nation on these particular nations on this map, they have to band together to decide to shoot the nuclear ICBMs on America. Russia are the only ones that hold them. For example, they could give some, spread them out. They could give one to UK, or put one here, or put one there. But as it stands, according to this list, Russia, India, United States, China, France, North Korea. So you could very well see, the France end up joining this ESSI, and that could be the governance, the rule in which they get together, and they say, well, whatever the EU wants us to do, or whatever the Beast system wants us to do, we're going to go against it, and we're going to rule ourselves maybe under the ESSI. And then at some point they will make a collective decision that our enemy is America as opposed to Russia, because at the minute the big enemy is Russia, but that has to switch. Russia will shoot their ICBMs on America, and all these other nations will agree and say we have to do the same. When you look at the Battle of Armageddon, that's going to be involved. Many nations around the world are going to be involved in that. But like I say, when you come back to the list of nuclear ICBMs, there's only so many parties involved. Russia, so when Russia decide to do that, to make that move, they don't really have to consult anybody. India, I don't know who they will consult with. You've got United States. They'll try and respond within that time when these nuclear ICBMs are let off in America's direction. And don't forget, America could have these ICBMs deployed in many parts of the world, through that Beast system. China, they've got rumblings going on in the Far East at the minute with war. And then you've got France and small hats in North Korea. So we know what North Korea are all about. So, they're the main countries to watch. And like I say, so when you look at the 10 horns here on this map, it's only France that have nuclear ICBMs. So France will ultimately be the ones shooting the ICBMs, but as it says, the 10 horns. So it's going to be an agreement between these nations as a region to take that particular action against America. So that was one part. You've got the ESSI, list of intercontinental ballistic missiles. Now the other situation was the fact that, like I said, neutrality. This is another article explaining the same thing, breaking tradition. Why Russia's war is making Switzerland question its neutrality. It says Europe's rapidly changing geopolitical position is causing Switzerland to rethink elements of its neutrality. This dramatic break, so this is why it stood out to me. This is a dramatic break in tradition should be a warning to other European countries that the continent's security context is less safe and less certain. It says here, among life's few certainties, Swiss neutrality is up there with death and taxes. So, what they're saying is, in life there's a couple of things that you can guarantee to come across. One of them is taxes, one of them is death, and another one is the fact that you're going to come across Switzerland being a neutral country. They've always been that, and it's pretty much through their foreign policy. It says at least it was until the Federal Department of Defense, Civil Protection and Sport dropped quite the bombshell report last month, which considers it necessary to revise Switzerland's neutrality policy in the view of the security policy challenges. So it says here, Swiss neutrality is generally seen as one of the strongest, if not the strongest, expressions of neutrality in the world. Since the country is not part of any military alliance, it is surrounded by NATO and European Union member states, but it has joined neither organization, nor does it have bilateral defense guarantees. It prides itself on being home to humanitarian organizations like the International Red Cross, themselves neutral, and to be a place where international peace negotiations can take place on neutral ground. Like the recent Bergenstock Ukraine Peace Summit, neutrality is part of Swiss identity. So you can look it up here. Swiss. This is AI overview answer. Swiss. I asked it. Switzerland's famous for neutrality, and the answer was yes. Switzerland is famous for its neutrality, which is a cornerstone of its foreign policy. History: Switzerland's neutrality dates back to 1515, when the Confederates were defeated at the Battle of Maringno. This is an international community formally recognized Switzerland's neutrality in 1815 at the Congress of Vienna. Then you've got principles, exceptions, the role, and the perception. It goes on. So, as the article said, there's a couple of things in life that you can guarantee to come across. One of them is going to be taxes, one of them is going to be death, and one of them is going to be the nation of Switzerland being neutral. However, that's changing, and we're moving into a time like never been seen before. The nation of Switzerland recognise that just as well as we do. And so, you've got these people living their lives every day, and we're telling them, World War III is coming, MOTB, all this destruction is coming very soon, but, nobody batters an eyelid. They hear it, they fan their hand, but they have more important things to do. Like they've got to get to work, or, they've got this dinner to go to, or if they've got that concert to go to, or they've got to do, this birthday party to get to. And so this is the ignorance that people live in. We warn them of these things that are coming, and they see it in the news, but then people, they kind of hope that, these things won't come to pass, they won't happen, maybe someone will come in and sort it out. But the world is changing, and it's changing right before your eyes. And the fact that Switzerland have realized that it's no longer the time for them to be a neutral nation anymore. Really shows you where we're at. And that's why, obviously, like I say, coming across this article really stuck out to me. You've got Joel chapter 3. It says, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. And so, we normally use this at the minute. We've got the situation with the Middle East. This is the BBC News. This is today, I think. Where are we? 2nd of November 2024. So this is 2 days ago. Iran's supreme leader says enemies will receive crushing response. So, we know the situation that's going on in the Middle East, and Iran have always been seen as a weak nation, and but now they have technology. They gather information and they build their own weapons, and they've made deals with places like Russia, and they import and export goods. They could export goods in exchange for military firepower. And we recognize this a long time ago. That's why we tell you that this time of World War III is close. Yet at the minute you've got the small hats. They've got this particular plan to eliminate the terrorists from that particular area. So now we're seeing Iran standing up. The weak saying, I am strong. They're saying it because they have the firepower. Many people believe that we're very close to seeing a nuclear ICBM, so that could be another one added to the list. And nuclear, it's all about nuclear arms, pretty much. That's where they're headed, in that direction. And so we're seeing what happened as well with a few weeks back. We've had Iran. I think it was a Tuesday. I can't remember what date it was. A couple of weeks back, there was a Tuesday when Iran decided to send about 180 to 200 ballistic missiles over to the small hats. Ever since then, everybody's waiting for a response with the small hats. It was a little bit delayed, and then it took about 3 weeks, and then I believe it took about 25 days to take place, and then a few days ago, that response from the small hats took place. And they responded to Iran by shooting missiles back to Iran and destroying certain particular sites. So now the ball's back in Iran's court, and people are looking to see how Iran will respond. And so this is the point at which we start to see, this so-called weak nation is actually going to, as it says here, Iran's supreme leader says enemies will receive a crushing response. So that at some point they're going to stand up and show them how strong they are. Whether they do that through their proxy armies or whether they do that directly themselves. And that's the question remains. And ultimately, like we keep telling you, this situation will develop into the Third World War. It will develop into the Battle of Armageddon, and it will draw many nations from around the world into the Middle East to create this battle, which then gives the Most High, the chance to judge these people in that particular area. So this is the weak saying, "I am strong." And when you look at what's happening in Switzerland, Switzerland aren't exactly standing up, on a chair and declaring that they're the mightiest nation out there. However, the fact that they recognize that they can't afford to be neutral anymore shows you exactly what time we're living in. You got the Most High's put he's put it in the will of the heart of the small hats to fulfill their own particular plan, and at some point something has to give between these particular two nations, and this will cause the Third World War. But Switzerland recognize that. We recognize it. Switzerland recognize it as well. And now it's time to pick a side. Yahushua said he's coming to bring division. We have division in America through civil unrest. We have division all around the world. With the situation that's going on in the Middle East. People are protesting. People are fighting over it. And if you were to ask someone on the street, They're going to give you their opinion, and it's either going to be one-sided or the other-sided. And so Switzerland recognized that. They're known for being neutral, but they realize that we're heading to a time like never been seen before. Nuclear war is around the corner. The Third World War is around the corner. And so Switzerland recognise that they cannot just be weak. At the minute, if you think about it, they're like the weakest nation because they hold no weapons, no treaties with the neighbours around them in order to make them, give them more defence. So it's their own self-will to be weak by saying, we don't want to involve ourselves, we don't want no trouble, we don't want to get involved in no fights. You other nations do what you want to do. If you want to hold peace talks on neutral ground, then get on a plane to Switzerland and come and join us. But that's going out the window. And if you look at it, the timing of everything it's perfect timing. We've got this election in America. The Third World War is already brewing. As we speak, the Most High just has to make a couple of things happen and escalate that thing real quick. And we're just waiting on this MOTB. So, like I say, you go back to Joel chapter 3, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks. So, it's pretty much saying take your farming utensils and beat them into spears. It says, let the weak say I am strong. And so that nations like Iran are standing up saying, we're strong. And nations like Switzerland, who make themselves weak on purpose, are realizing, shit, something's about to go down. And it's going to create a third world war. It's going to be huge. So we need to gain protection. I mean, they could use the excuse of Russia. They could say, well, this is down to what happened with Russia and Ukraine. We're worried about Europe. But it, still coincides with what's happening in the Middle East. Because, any person with half a brain can sit there and realize that this world is heading towards major war, because you've got major wars taking place on different parts of the world, and all it takes is for these things to escalate, and we have a major war. A lot of people look into Russia and Ukraine thinking World War III is going to start out of that particular spot, but it's not. It's, according to the scriptures, it's going to be down in the Levant, the valley of Yahweh's decision, Yehoshaphat. So the other thing, so leading on from that with Iran, like I said, a few weeks back you had Iran, shooting ballistic missiles on the small hats. There was about 180 to 200 that they shot in one particular day. It's then taken 25 days for the small hats to respond. Many things behind that. You could say, well, they're trying to hold out for this US election. They don't want to cause too much fuss until the US election has gone past. Then the US government are more likely to back them. And now they've actually come out with that response. The small hats hit these Iranians back. So now, like I say, the ball's in the Iranian court. Are you going to strike back? When and where and what with? And so there's another mystery involved in this. And this is Israel attacks Iran, a limited retaliation. It says here it took 25 days to act, said Arash Aziz in the Atlantic. But last Saturday, Israel finally responded to the salvo of missiles fired at it by Iran. It says the operation, named Days of Repentance, involved more than 100 Israeli fighter jets and targeted air defense systems, radars, military bases, and missile production factories across Iran, including the outskirts of Tehran. It says it was the most significant attack on Iran by any country since the 1980s, but fell a long way short of the apocalyptic strike some had feared. It says Israel didn't target Iran's nuclear or energy infrastructure, nor did it assassinate any political or military leaders. According to insiders, Israel even used intermediaries to give Tehran a day's warning. So, it's all a bit, cat and mouse, and they're kind of playing games with each other. The reason why they do that is kind of like a warning. You know, if you get into trouble with someone on the street, you know, you might say to the guy, "Listen, calm down," you know, or I'm going to knock you out. And if you know, you could jump straight to knocking somebody out, or you could tell them, "Listen, you know, don't get involved with me here, because you know, I'll end up hurting you or something." So they kind of do that, you know, with these attacks. You know, they give them a bit of warning. They send out a couple of missiles. Have that, you know, destroy a couple of sites. Hopefully, you'll settle down and you know sit back in your place. But this is the point, as we keep telling you, where scriptures tell us, "Let the weak say, I am strong." So now we're waiting for that response from Iran. And so the other thing with Iran is they've got a change in leadership. You know, we go here. This is Wikipedia. Next supreme leader of Iran election. It says an election for the third supreme leader of Iran is scheduled to be held following the end of the current tenure of Ali Khamenei. You know, which is pretty much, I believe that's him there. It says as of October 2024, it says no person has been officially declared as the heir to the current leader nor as a nominee, though various sources such as Reuters and the BBC have written on potential candidates. The succession of Khamenei is deemed to have been decided but not disclosed publicly. Constitutionally, the Assembly of Experts is tasked to select the next leader. Its sixth and current term was elected in 2024 and is scheduled to sit until 2032. So they've got a new Ayatollah, a new supreme leader, and the talk is basically how forward is that next supreme leader. You know, we're now waiting for a response from this ongoing saga that's been going on in the Middle East. We're now waiting for a response from Iran, but they've also got a new Ayatollah, you know, a new supreme leader in place. So they're saying that this person could be, you know, hot-headed, and you know, he might just start pushing buttons, or he could be a cool cat and could just kick back and you know not want to respond. So you know, we know what the end result, because we know what scriptures tell us. We know that we're in that time, so you know, we believe everything's going to move in that direction. So you know, all these little situations, all these things we pull out, they're called variables. So you know, you have you know when you wake up tomorrow, for example, the sun is going to come up, and you know at some point the sun is going to go down. The sun going up and down, rising and falling is not a variable. But what the weather is going to be is a variable, because you don't know if it's going to rain, or if it's going to be extra hot, or if it's going to be snowy or windy. So you know, we look at the situation and there's lots of variables within the scenario. You know, you've got, we're waiting for a response from the small hats, sorry, from Iran. You know, we don't know who the leader is, and the Most High could have anybody put into that particular position for this particular moment, and that's why it's you know, we've got to keep watching, and that's why you know we're constantly in that danger zone of things escalating very quickly. Now, for us, it's not really a danger zone. It's just a zone of prophecy. But for you know the people out there that are going to get judged by Hashem Yahushai, those in the world, those that are not of the elect, you know, we're hoping to be of that number. It definitely is a danger zone. So, you know, these little variables, you know, all over the place, and you know, the Most High could just use them to just swing the situation or the scenario from you know one particular situation to the other. And so, ultimately, when you go back to Revelation chapter 17, you know, you've got European nations shooting ICBMs on America. Anybody else around the world that's got nuclear ICBMs will all shoot them upon America, and it's obviously because of America's influence in within the beast system. You know, they back the small hats. They're backing them with whatsoever going on over there in the Middle East. So once if Iran escalate it into a full-on war, America will have to be involved on a higher level. Once that happens, Russia will come in at some point to back up Iran on a higher level, and then there's all these other alliances around the place, and that's what will cause Armageddon. And like I say, through the peak of World War III, we start to see nuclear ICBMs shot upon America. This is Habakkuk chapter 3. It says, "The sun and the moon stood still in their habitation. At the light of thine arrows they went." It says, "and at the shining of the glittering spear." It says, "Thou didst march through the land in indignation. Thou didst thresh the heathen in anger." And that's what's coming. These, when you read in the scriptures about arrows, of the Most High, this is pretty much talking about nuclear ICBMs. You've got an arrow, for example. You've got your, if you like, your Robin Hood arrow. Pretty much standard arrow, and it's the tip that does the damage. And when you look at an intercontinental ballistic missile, it's pretty much the same thing. This is a schematic of a ICBM, and as you can see down here, it's broken up into 9 different parts. So you've got part 1, first stage engine; number 2, second stage engine; number 3, third stage engine. So you've got part 1, this, the engine, obviously, is exhaust is coming out of here. Number 2, and then number 3, and these particular parts will fall away at different parts of the journey. One part is to get it up into the air. Another part is to help it cruise to its particular target area, and then once it reaches that particular target area, it will completely dismantle and just drop the front section. So you've got number 4, transition section. It's just a piece of transition section. Number 5, head cowling. Number 6, breeding level of combat units. So this is where all the firepower comes within the nuclear ICBM. When it comes in to destroy and make a land desolate, just like an arrow, the dangerous part is positioned at the very tip of the instrument. And you notice again, these got all like in the shape of an arrow. So certain ICBMs hold certain number of warheads in that particular section. So depending on the size, and then obviously that determines the power, the damage that it can do. For example, this is Ezekiel chapter 39 and 3. This is prophecy against Gog, invaders destroyed. So, pretty much talking to Russia. It says that, "And I will smite thy bow out of thy left hand, and will cause thine arrows to fall out of thy right hand." So, when the Most High is talking about the bow and the arrow in a prophetical sense, is pretty much speaking of the arrow being the ICBM, and then the bow, you could put that down to the silos. If you look on the right hand side here, these nuclear ICBMs, when they get shot off, initially they're positioned in the silo underground. Now some silos are positioned on the back of a truck. Some of these, they may be shot off from a submarine. Obviously you've got different sizes, different variations, so on and so forth, but the silo pretty much here, what you can see here, that represents the bow, and the bow is the part at which the arrow flies off from, when it's made, when it's shot at its target. So as it says here, speaking to Russia, it says, "And I will smite thy bow out of thy left hand," because Russia will use that bow and that arrow, the Most High's bow and the arrow. The Most High gave Esau that technology to be able to design that weaponry so he could use it in the Third World War, in the Day of the Lord, in the Great Judgment. But then at that point, Russia themselves will have to be taken down. At the end of World War III, you've got many nations planning to be the victor. You've got China, for example, Russia. They believe that if a World War III comes along, they would want to come out as the power nation, the next power nation to rule this earth. However, the Most High, as it said in Revelation 17:17, it says, "These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings." So even the firepower that Russia have, it's going to have to be, taken away from them. So Ezekiel 39:3, "And I will smite thy bow out of thy left hand, and I will cause thy arrows to fall out of thy right hand." So the Most High will get them to use them, but then obviously at some point, the Lord of Lords, King of Kings will overcome Russia too. But yeah, as it says here, Habakkuk 3:11, "The sun and the moon stood still in their habitation. At thy light of thy arrows they went." It says, "At the shining of thy glittering spear. Thou didst march through the land in indignation," righteous anger, righteous judgment. It says, "Thou didst thresh the heathen in anger." And that's what's coming. And like I keep saying, out of all that, Switzerland have recognized it. The most neutral place on this planet Earth, the most neutral nation that, like it said, you've grown up through your life. A couple of things that you're guaranteed. You're guaranteed to witness death. You're guaranteed to witness taxes. And you're also guaranteed to witness Switzerland being a neutral country, but not anymore. It's changing. And they're not exactly, doesn't make them the most powerful nation on earth, but they've had to join an alliance. They've had to pick sides, and they understand that division is here. Yahushua said he's coming to bring division. How can Satan's kingdom stand if it's divided amongst himself? If Satan be divided against Satan, then how can his kingdom stand? And this is part of Satan. This is part of the system. Within the EU, there's rumblings going on. They're creating their own defense pact. And ultimately, if, like I say, if France joined that ESSI, it could be under their governing rulership of the ESSI that they decide to shoot ICBMs from France to America in order to protect Europe, for whatever reason. So, like I keep saying, World War III is coming, and for all these nations to want to shoot on America, for all of them to want to go down into the Levant and to battle it out, great falling out has to take place, and we're seeing it. People they're talking about what's happening in the Middle East, talking about what's happening in Russia. The beast. You've got to understand. You live under two sort of aspects of it. You've got the beast system pushing in a direction to push you into the MOTB. They'll work together on that. You've got Russia with the BRICS. The BRICS is pretty much put together by the West. I can't remember who the names, but it's the same people pushing the same agendas, creating opposition for the thing that they want to push, and just to create this pathway to bring you to the MOTB. So everything works together in that aspect of it, and it seems like they're all together. But then on another aspect, there's cracks. They're falling apart. The book of Daniel talks about the statue, with 10 toes, part iron, part clay, and it's unable to mix. And you're seeing it. And like I keep saying, Switzerland have recognized it. So if Switzerland don't want to be neutral, then that shows you that something's about to go down. It's time to pick sides. And, the side that we're on, the men of Yahweh, Bashim, Yahushai, we're on the side of prophecy. So we don't care how the saga, which way the saga turns, what's the next turning, what's the next dramatic event along the line, along the course of this particular saga that we're witnessing. We're not too fussed. We just want the end result, which is ultimately the return of Yahweh, Bashim, Yahushai. So I'm going to leave it right there. I hope that was edifying. Until next time, I'm going to say all praises to Yahweh, Bashim, Yahushai, Bashim, Rakak, Kwadash. And until next time, Shalom.